We should be good.
Nice.
All right, you ready?
Ready.
Al, how you doing today?
I'm having a good day, Ed.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, so am I. It's what is it? It's Thursday,
Thursday.
which for us is the last day of the week, right?
Yep, it is.
Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I just wanted to introduce ourselves. My name's Ed DePape. This is Al McDowell. We just kind of wanted to give you a quick rundown of what it might be like to be in the car business if you're thinking about making that jump from either maybe you're working for someone in the auto industry already or outside the industry. Al is one of our very valuable employees here. He's done a great job for us. We actually went through this income action plan deal this morning in our sales meeting, so I thought we'd do a quick video. We came up with some interesting information, right?
I think so, yeah.
I thought it was.
Yeah.
So what I thought we would do is we'd start a little bit about, I'd like to hear a little bit about your background so that people know how long you've been in the car business and more importantly, what you did prior to that. So let's start with, when did you start in the car business?
Cool. Well, I started last November. I came in and applied for the job, I think, early November, and then was actually hired by the end of the month. And before that, I was a bartender during the winters up at Mount Hood Meadows and Timberline Lodge, and working mostly food service jobs. And then during the summer times, I was a river guide.
Yeah.
And I actually recently had a bit of a revelation about the correlations between those careers. And of course, there's front-facing customer service and all that stuff that I've been providing for years. But in the aspect, or just the way a river trip runs, is people pay for the trip, they show up, and then they're guided down the river. And that usually starts with safety talk and all this stuff. But during that time period, the guests that you have are uncertain, fearful. They have no idea what's going to happen. And by the end, you transition to that fear and uncertainty to confidence and joy. And that's fundamentally what my goal is when I make contact with a customer on the car lot too. They're fearful. They're uncertain. They don't know what's going to happen. Maybe they had a bad prior experience, and that can happen with the Raptors too. Maybe someone almost drowned. I don't want to go again.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing as you have all these things to kind of overcome emotionally, but transition them to the right emotional state. So that's what I really like about it.
Yeah, I know. I remember we were actually talking about that last month when Dan Culver was here.
And that's when it kind of clicked for me. I was like, man, this is so similar in so many ways.
Yeah, it is. I really like that reference point too, because a lot of people, I remember getting in the car business and thinking to myself, I don't want to be a car salesman.
Yep.
I don't want to be a car salesman. And I'd never really had a bad experience on a car lot. I hadn't bought many cars. I got in the industry when I was 25, 24 years old. Mm-hmm. So it was a long time ago. But yeah, just being fearful for all the negative things that history has created about car salesmen. And then what I found is once I got in the industry, none of it was true.
Right.
Yeah, none of it was true. So
yeah.
I would say we're fortunate to work for the company that we do as well. We've got a great set of principles and beliefs. We have a purpose that we live by every day. And we just really strive. We're in the relationship business, not the car business.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice that we frame it that way here. And we have the beliefs and principles, and we have our purpose and all that stuff.
Yes.
I think that all those things are the driving factor behind our culture and our process. And I am too grateful that I came into this door and, didn't go downtown or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that it would have been, I don't know if I would have felt the way I feel and feel good about selling cars the way I feel good about selling cars with another dealership. I don't know. Maybe I would, but
I'm with you.
I didn't want to be a car salesman anyway, because I didn't want to make people feel any sort of way or anything like that. But it's not like that.
And here you are.
Here I am.
Coming up on your 1-year anniversary, actually. November 18th will be your 1-year anniversary. I might have cheated. I went and looked at your employee file so that I knew exactly what date that you were hired, because I knew it was getting close to a year. So we'll have that 1-year celebration coming up. So one of the things when people are getting into the industry that they want to know is how much money can I make in the car business? Not that it's all about the money, but at the end of the day, it's important to have a good living for your family, to feel good about what you do, and have results at the end of the day in the form of some sort of a good paycheck, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the reasons that we focused on this in our meeting is we're coming up on 2022. We're almost 1 month through the fourth quarter, and you got to have a plan to know where you're going to end the year, and that's what we've been focusing on, is working on our 22 goals and forecasting. So I came up with this handy sheet, this income action plan. We went through it in the meeting this morning, and so we're just going to go through it with you real quick. One of the things that I wanted to talk about, with your permission, is without going into too much detail, just maybe a little bit of information about how you're doing thus far in the car business, where you're at, where you're tracking for the year, and then talk about your 2022 goals. So prior to getting in the car business, if you don't mind me asking, what's the most money you made in 1 year?
Oh, not a lot, and I didn't really keep track of it, but probably about 35,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your anticipation? Because one of the things that I like about you actually is you're very relationship driven. You're not necessarily driven just by the dollars. It's about the relationship, and you could tell that early on when you came on board, and it pays dividends. It really does in the end. So I know for you, it's not necessarily about the money, but it is important to a lot of people, and you got to have the money to have a nice Sienna like you got, right? You got a great vehicle now. So what was kind of your anticipation getting into the business?
I remember what I told you guys, you and Jamie, in the interview, and I said, if I make $50,000, that'll be more money than I've ever made, and I'll be happy.
In a year.
In a year.
That was his aspiration when he first got in the car business 11 months ago.
Right, but also since I knew it was new to the business, I thought that would be. I wanted to keep it realistic, and I didn't want to be like, I'm gonna make $100,000 this year, and then be like, this is hard. I'm never gonna make $100,000.
Right?
You know, I wanted to exceed the 50. Hopefully, is what my goal was.
Yeah. Do you know where you're at year to date?
No.
Year to date, this is through the end of September. September's paycheck. You are just over $55,000.
Holy cow, man.
So we still have October, November, December. You have fourth quarter. You're tracking $74,000 for your first year in the car business, and you're at 100 units. You've sold 100 cars this year.
Right.
So good job there.
Cool. Thank you.
Very good job there. So the reason I bring that up is
100 on the dot?
100 on the dot.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Before this month. So we're almost all the way through October, but through September. Okay. So through the end of September is where you're at. Yes.
Cool.
The reason I bring that up is it's a relevant number on the planning sheet that we want to talk about. Even prior to shooting this is kind of an off-the-cuff impromptu video, so I was really looking forward to it. I haven't even asked you yet what your goal for 2022 is, income goal, and you might not have even had one. But what
I kind of wanted to see where I ended up this year and see and increase it for the next. But if I'm pacing almost 75, then.
So you're pacing higher than you really thought you were.
Yeah. Yeah. So then the goal should be 100.
Okay.
That's what the goal should be, 100 grand.
Okay, 100 grand. So we're going to use this sheet, and we're going to put $100,000 as your goal for 2022. An interesting thing about that for me is you talked about when we interviewed you a little over a year ago that you didn't even think that was possible.
Yeah, I would be totally happy.
Yeah. And now it's a realistic, achievable goal for you for 2022.
Yep.
So we're going to use your number. We came up with the store's average of $576 per vehicle sold.
Okay.
So the way that we figure that out is what we do is I'm just going to use your pay stub. So you're at $55,598 year to date through September. The cool part is about the math right now is it was 100, so it makes it really easy. So it's 555 per vehicle sold is what you're making. Yep. Really close to the close. So every car you sell
I got better at darts.
You got better at darts. There's some things you got to get good at that you didn't even really know were actually part of the pay plan, right? Yeah. So $555. Another thing we talk about in our industry and specifically within this auto group is our formula. So we all know in the car business it's about getting in front of a customer and bringing them through the process and in the end solving their problem and getting them in a new vehicle for them. And so we break it down in very basic numbers. Why don't you give just a quick explanation, because I know you know the formula of how that flows.
Yep. So if you could have 10 customer contacts in a
Mhm.
week, and out of those 10, you drove 9 people in a car that drive a car. And then of those 9, you ask all of them to buy the car. You get 8 of them inside and write them up. So
Mhm.
you do you show them the numbers and all that stuff. And then out of those 8, you should close 50%, which would be 4. So to sell 4 cars, you got to talk to 10 people.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, so that's actually pretty good. That's like 40% ish.
It is. It's a 40% closing ratio.
Yeah, 40%
which is real
closing
good.
ratio. I talked to another guy in our auto group, Chris Manuel, who said that he used to work timeshares, and he's like, they close. If you're good at selling timeshares, you close less than 10%.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I like the prospect of this business a little bit more. Where, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So the first thing that we need to figure out, so we've got your formula there that we talked about. 10 customers, 9 test drives, 8 write-ups, you'll sell 4 cars.
Yep.
We really focus on weekly goals, so 4 is the key every single week. So if your goal is to make $100,000 this year and you make $555 every time that you sell a vehicle, how many units do we need to sell to get your 100,000? Do you have your calculator on you?
I do.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take your total income goal of $100,000 and divide it by the income that you make per car, which is $555.
180.
So you have to sell 180 units in 2022 to hit your $100,000 goal income. Okay? So now we're going to work that backwards to figure out what we're going to end up with here is a daily action plan. So what I want to show you is it seems like a big number, right? You're tracking 74 for this year. You want to increase it to 100 for next year. You have to sell 180 cars. That sounds like a big number, right? So we're going to break it down to, hey, here's what I got to do every single day that I show up to work, how many customers I have to get in front of, the activities that I have to do to end up at the end of the year looking at your W-2 going, I made it. I made it to 6 figures. Okay. So we'll work it backwards. So we know how many cars you have to sell. Now we have to figure out how many people that you need to write up to do that.
Okay.
So there's a couple ways to do it. The easy math is if we get 8 of them to write up and we sell 4 of those, it's just double the amount of cars we're selling. But I'm going to show you the formula just so that you know. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your 180 units. So plug this in your calculator.
Okay.
You're going to divide that by 4, which is how many you want to sell in a week. And then you're going to multiply that number by 8, which will give us our write-ups. So it's 360 people next year that you need to get to look at numbers.
Yep.
Right? Okay. So now how many test drives do you need to take in order to get there?
So we're going to do 180.
Correct.
Divided by...
So put this in your calculator again. We're going to do 180.
Okay.
And then we're just going to divide it by the 4 per week again. And then we're going to multiply that by 9.
Makes sense. 405.
So just over 400 people you're going to get behind the wheel of a vehicle. Now, in order to do that, how many total people do you need to get in front of?
All right. Let's figure it out. Is that
so again, we're going to do 180 divided by 4 times 10.
450.
450 people. Kind of feels like a big number, doesn't it?
It does.
It really does when you look at it in annual terms. So you're going to have to talk to 450 people. You're going to have to do 405 test drives. You're going to have to do 360 write-ups. And you will sell 180 cars and you'll make $100,000. Now, let's talk about a couple activities that we have to do in order to do that. Car business, being sales, we make a lot of phone calls, right? We're doing follow-up calls. We're making sure that our sold customers are happy. We're seeing what we need to do with our old unsold customers to get them into a vehicle. So we have statistical data. I won't go into it for timing reasons in the video of how many phone calls we make. And it works out to, we came up with it this morning, we make 15 phone calls for every 1 vehicle that we sell. So let's figure out how many phone calls you'll have to make to sell 180 units. So we're going to take 180 and multiply it by 15.
2,700.
2,700. That's a lot of dialing.
That's a lot of dialing.
That's a lot of dialing, isn't it? So no one said the business was easy. It's
No,
work,
yeah.
but it's worth it.
Yeah.
The other statistic that we came up with is how many appointments that we have set that show versus how many vehicles that we sell. And what we came up with was the number was 0.72. So take 0.72 and multiply it by 180.
0.72 by 180.
So 130 we'll go.
Is that the one we're supposed to divide by?
Yep, you did it right.
Okay.
You did it right. So now we got to figure out how many hours and how much time are you going to have to put in to get to that number.
Right.
So let's talk about a year. A year is a long time. We're talking about big numbers, but we got 365 days to get it done. But I don't know about you. I don't want to work 365 days. So we're closed on Sunday. That's a good benefit. We work a 5-day work week in the car business. It's not as long of hours as most people might think. We have an early shift, a late shift. It works out really good. What do you think of the schedule?
I think the schedule works out great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a time frame, in all honesty, where I remember having a couple conversations with you where, like, because you were a rafting guy, man.
I know. It's
Talk
a big
about
transition.
Just putting in the hours in the summer, maybe kicking back a little bit in the winter, whatever.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think, it's still sometimes a struggle to not have the same 2 days off each week, but, I've been able to manage and have gotten used to it over the year. But that said, I mean, you guys are accommodating if I need to. What I try to do is take the 2-day off weekends, and then if I need to take one more day off or something like that on either side of it, kind of make it work that way.
Like, say, a trip to Vegas or something.
Something,
right?
Yeah, something like that. For example. Yeah.
For example. Just for example. Yeah. So we got 365 days. We don't work Sundays. You get another day off throughout the week. You get a weekend every 2 weeks. A really good schedule, actually, for retail automotive sales.
Yeah.
So what we talk about in our trainings is we focus on 4 cars a week. There's 52 weeks in a year. We're going to take a couple weeks vacation, sometimes a little more. It just depends on what everyone's got going on. So the real easy math we come up with is you want to work 50 weeks throughout the course of the year, and we got 5 working days per week.
50 times 5. 250.
So we're going to work 250 days in the year, which is still a lot of time off. Like, that's 115 days off or whatever. It's like 3 months. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, it's actually more than 3 months. 3 months is like 90 days. It's a lot of time. Then the thing we're going to need to figure out is how many calls you're going to need to make per day, because we know that 2,700 number seemed really big when we came up with it. So the good news is that 2,700 we're going to divide out by 250. So each and every day that you show up to work, how many times are you going to have to dial the phone? 10.8, so let's just put 11.
11.
Right?
Yeah.
Got to make 11 phone calls. Does that seem like a really reasonable number compared to 2,700?
Yeah, I think that's realistic.
Yeah, that's realistic. That's a few phone calls in the morning, a few in the evening, whatever. If you've got the time to sit down in front of the phone and make some calls, you can hammer that out in an hour, even maybe an hour and a half. It just depends on the interaction time with the customer and what you got going on.
It does.
Then let's talk about how many customers you need to get in front of every day, because we determined that you need to have 450 customers.
450.
Which is, that again seems like a big number, but you get 250 days to do it.
All right. So 450 by 250?
Yeah.
Is what? No.
So 250
by 450.
Yeah, divided by 450. No, we did that backwards. 450 divided by 250.
1.8. Okay.
See, so that's the other good thing about the car business. You don't have to be very mathematically smart.
No,
here we both are.
No, yeah.
Here we both are doing it, and we can't even figure that out. We just did it this morning.
I know.
So we came up with 1.8. So let's use nice even numbers. It's 2.
2.
Right? So what that means is you got to get in front of 2 people every day. You got to make 11 phone calls every day. What about this appointment thing? What's this appointment thing?
I thought that was the best revelation from this, because the phone calls turn into the appointment. That's correct. The whole goal.
Yep.
And the appointments you've mentioned, I forget the statistic, but we sell like 70% of the appointments or something like that.
Yeah, it's a high ratio.
So the idea would be always get the appointment, and you need a half of one per
Yeah,
day.
it's a little bit different number. We'll skip the math, but what it worked out to is if you can set one appointment every 2 days,
Right. That's
right?
it.
That
Yep.
would be so 2-3 appointments per week. You've got good closing ratios on those folks versus people that are just coming in looking for a unit. So getting in front of 2 people, dialing the phone every day, all realistic expectations, I think. So let's break it down to the, because if I told you, hey, you got to make 2,700 phone calls, you got to get in front of 450 people and get 405 of them behind the wheel of a car and ride up 360, you're like, bro, I'm going back to rafting.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going back to rafting. That's too
the goal
much.
seems too big. You got to chunk it out and break it down.
So every day you got to talk to 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
You got to make 11 phone calls, 1 appointment every 2 days, and the result is a W-2 at the end of the year that reads $100,000.
Awesome.
All doable activities.
Yeah, really. So what I've been doing in my daily planner is just talk to 2 people a day, but now I'm gonna say talk to 2 people a day, call 11, try to set an appointment the next day or 2, and then yeah, for
100
me.
grand.
For me, it's nice to have that in front of my face every day.
It is.
Every day.
A daily action plan, something to look forward to. Sometimes you get thrown off your mark throughout the course of the day, right?
Yeah.
You have busy days where you're going to talk to more than 2 people.
Yep.
And guess what? You're going to have days where you don't talk to anybody.
Yep.
Right? That's how it works.
Sure will.
But law of averages.
Hit the phone.
I'm excited for you. I'm
Thanks.
looking forward to you crushing 2022. And I think what we should do is let's put it on our calendar. Let's plan a follow-up meeting sounds like so far away, but it's not. So you and I are going to sit up here in January of 2023, and we're going to talk about your results for 2022.
That'd be awesome.
As a follow-up meeting to this.
That'd be awesome. That sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Al, thanks for doing this video.
Yes,
it was
sir.
a lot of fun. And
I think so too. I hope you guys found it fun too.
Most importantly, I hope you guys found it fun. So if you're thinking about a career in the car business, if I can do it and Al can do it, anybody can do it.
Really and truly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Right on, man. I'm going to